and being able to tell you about some very exciting things that I've been working with and on. But I guess the first slide is just a little bit on my own background. Since some of you don't know anything about me, I thought I'd just share a little bit. Basically, my background includes science. I'm a biochemist, includes laboratory medicine, to start up lab for bioscience labs and setting it up for throughout the country. And now it's Quest Labs, which is the largest clinical lab. I was in the pharmaceutical business with Dow. I've been in the diagnostics business, the laboratory side of it with SIVA and Syntex. I've started various companies. Chemtrack was the first home cholesterol test. Oculex, we created the first intraocular drug delivery system. Ozurdex, which is sold by Allergan. And my wife runs VisionX, which is in the dry eye area. And currently we have a couple of companies going, Nuvora, and that's in the oral drug delivery side of things. This is technology where we've created Dentiva, which is a lozenge for breath, but also oral health. It has zinc for colds also. Salice for dry mouth. It has the longest lasting dry mouth lozenge out there. And then the other company I have is Livionics, and I'm chairman there. And we probably have the best dental toothpaste on the marketplace. And it's a new technology that's anti-inflammatory, new way to look at inflammation, new way to also look at reducing early cataracts. But my main love has been really the aspects of FMBR and that whole area and the study of mind being. And my interests include nature of who we are, the nature of the universe. I've been researching water for a while now. And for the last 6 months, I've been researching some new energies, and we'll call it 369 energies. And I'll talk about GANS and ORMUS because that's very much involved in all of this, and you'll see how that's done. I am working on a book right now that talks about the nature of who we are and the nature of healing, and the book will be called Seeker and the Teacher of Light. And I'll talk a little bit about that and who the teacher is. So that gives you a little background on where I'm coming from. So science and a mishmash of virtually everything else, basically. Tesla is known for the quote, "If you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, then you would have the key to the universe." So why did he say that? And what are the things that I've now discovered about 3, 6, 9? That's what part of the talk will be about, because we're going to talk about the energies that are involved in that. And in doing that, I'll be talking about the torus structure. I'll be talking about the nature of the spiraling energies that form the torus, and therefore the basis of everything that happens with regard to that. So let me just jump into that. And also I'll be talking about biogeometry, because that's the energy that we'll be using, the techniques that we use to measure the energy. So we're talking about a new energy that we can measure. If you remember Bob Whitehouse, he gave a lecture last year, towards the end of last year. And he talked about the torus as being a fundamental structure. He was talking about basically the Arthur Young theories of process. And in talking about the lecture, he showed something that was very, very interesting. He showed the structure, the cross-section of a torus. And the cross-section of a torus is shown in the left-hand corner. And when I saw that cross-section, I saw 369, because I've been looking at for an explanation of 369 for some time. And you can see the 369 there. You see the 6 that is there, and if I can have the pointer, you see the 6 in the red, you see the 9 in the blue, and the 3s are here in the infinity symbol over on the top or on the bottom. So that got me to be thinking about the torus as the basis of 369. And with that, there's a certain series of information that one needs in order to understand what I'll be doing next. And so the first thing is to understand a little bit about the torus as being a fundamental pattern. The torus is a donut shape, and you see the image of me. I have a torus here, and it rotates around, and everything goes through the center. It's a donut shape, but that's the self-sustaining whirlpool vortex. And it's a very unique structure, and it is the basis of all structures and everything else. And I'll get into that. And if we go into the next slide, you see the torus there, and that is, in fact, the basis of creation from the micro to the macro. If you listen to Nassim Haramein, you listen to him talking about that. You listen to others, you'll hear that. And you see the heart math pictures with the heart in the center and what looks like a torus around that, but it's the energy fields. The earth is there in this picture, and its energies surrounding it is basically a torus. It's the shape of the electromagnetic field of an atom, seed, a human, planet, the solar system, galaxy, and probably the universe itself. And if you go through and look in the literature, you hear about Daniel Winters, you hear about his implosion physics, you hear about ether, and many people talk about it. And the quantum physicists will talk about it in terms of the zero-point energy. But the ether is there, and it's a vortex in the ether that is the basis of the formation of everything. And back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, Charles Ledbetter and Anne Besant were asked to describe the atom. They're clairvoyants. And so they put their talents to work, and what they saw was what they called the anu. And the anu was basically a torus. And they said the torus is the basic building block of matter and is made from the ether. And they jump into a slightly different topic that's very, very related, and that's Walter Russell. And he lived in the late 1800s until 1963. You see many of his artwork and sculptures and paintings in Washington, D.C. He was a polymath, sculptor, philosopher, musician, scientist. And back in 1921, he got his input into the nature of creation. He was in the wilderness, and the way he says it, I'll put it very simply. In May of 1921, God took me up into the high mountain of inspiration in an intense ecstasy. A brilliant flash like lightning severed my bodily sensations from my consciousness, and I found myself freed from my body and wholly in the mind universe of light, which is God. And then God said to me, "Behold, thou the unity of all things in the light of me, in the seeming separateness of all things in the two lights of my divided thinking. See thou that I, the undivided, unchanging one, am within all divided things, centering them, and I am without all changing things, controlling them." These are, in fact, very profound words, because later on, the next slide after this, he talks about the basis of creation of matter. And that was the introduction that divine source gave to him. He's basically had an out-of-body experience, and information is downloaded to him instantaneously. And what he said was centripetal vortex motion of light, which is clockwise spiraling inward towards the center, is the basis of the formation of matter. So the clockwise spiraling is an important point, and we'll get into that later. And then everything goes through in cycles. So the disintegration of matter is centrifugal vortex motion, which is in counterclockwise spiraling out from the center. And the vortex of light is polar. So you have red and blue light as the basis, and what can then say that's male and female. And creation and breakdown of everything is a continuous cycle. And that's what he observed. So it's a cycle of creation, it's disintegration on an ongoing endless wave. And it's a wave that he talks about. So here is the structures of things that if you start reading his books, you see the spiraling of light into a center, and you see the two spiralings of light of the male and female, and they interpenetrate. And on the right, you see that same thing happening, the red and the blue light spiraling in, and that is the basis of, in fact, creation. So let me go to the next slide. So that is an important aspect of what I'll be talking about, because that presents a little bit of background. Another bit of background that you'll need is to understand just the rudimentaries of biogeometry. And the rudimentaries is just to know that there is something called BG3 that one can measure. And it's a quality of harmony. But the basis of all that is that there's a field called radiesthesia, in which one can measure resonance with energies. And what does that mean? Well, you can have color, and that's an energy that has a certain wavelength, it's electromagnetic structure. And just like if you have a string that you can pluck, and then that string can be in resonance with all the octaves above and below it, resonance means that you can be in resonance with other energies above and below that. So what does that mean? Well, if you have a color red, I'll put the color red here, and you take a pendulum, and just like the string, the length of the string is the way that is measuring the sound that you hear. The length of a string of a pendulum is the same as the length of similar in manner with regard to the length of the string that you pluck. So in fact, if you have something that is red, you could say, let me get a neutral pendulum, wrong pendulum, different pendulum for different purposes. But you have a neutral pendulum, you just get it moving, and you drop the pendulum until a certain distance has dropped. And then that's the length that is related to the color red. It's in resonance with the red. So if you go to yellow and do that, you won't get any rotation. It's a clockwise rotation. That's what it's meant by detection of resonance of energies. In the field of biogeometry, Ibrahim Karim, who's a founder of biogeometry, discovered that the quality of harmony is found in sacred spots and in centers of things. And that harmony had three energies that were associated with it. And energy is probably the wrong word, three qualities, and resonance with three qualities. And had the resonance with the quality of a harmonic of ultraviolet, of gold, and something called a negative, horizontal negative green. So all those properties are in items that have harmony. So in fact, if you look at some of Ibrahim's devices and cubes and things of that nature, here's a cube, here's a pendulum for detecting BG3 energies. If you put the two together and start moving the pendulum automatically goes in a clockwise circle. And that's an energy of harmony. And the energy of harmony is very, very important, because if you can harmonize you can harmonize things. You can harmonize a room, you can harmonize electromagnetic fields so that those fields no longer bother you. If you have salt water and you want to grow a plant in it, you'll harmonize water so it will grow a plant. And he's looked at things like hepatitis and done studies on it. So BG3 is the key point here, is an energy that you can measure. And it's an important energy. So now we can go into what 369 is, because now we have enough background. If you look at the cross-section of a torus, you see this structure on the left-hand side. And that structure has basically no BG3 in it. And if my phone keeps clinging, and so I'm wondering if someone's trying to get hold of me. So too bad. I'm afraid someone's trying to say that I'm not speaking loud enough, but I think Judy will speak up if I'm not talking loud enough. That's the reason I looked at the phone. But since the torus has no 3-6, no energy associated, what am I talking about? Remember, I said that if there's clockwise motion, and that's the basis of creation. So if you draw the 6 in a clockwise motion and draw the 9 in a clockwise motion, suddenly if you check that structure, there's BG3. If you do it in reverse, if you do it counterclockwise, that's the process of disintegration of, according to Walter Russell. That's a centrifugal force out. Now you'll show the negative rotation, counterclockwise motion with the BG3 pendulum, which I had showed you a few minutes ago. The interesting thing is that this energy is reproducible. I have the arrows showing it, and the arrows alone will, if you just put arrows into the structure on the left, you'll show BG3 energies. If you trace it and you don't see the arrows, it'll have BG3 energies. If you copy it, once you put in the BG3 energies, there will be BG3 energies. So it's photocopyable. So let me go to the next slide. If you don't have that full big torus where the energies flow around in a bigger environment, and this is now just like the plain torus, you just cut it, give a vertical section of it, you'll see this structure. And again, you see the same thing. If you have clockwise directions, you'll see BG3. If you have counterclockwise directions, you'll see the negative version of BG3. If you have the directions going in both directions, no BG3. Now the interesting thing is, if you now write the numbers of 3, 6, 9, if the numbers are written in a clockwise manner, 3 written in this direction, 6 written in this direction, and 9 written in this direction clockwise, you get the energies of BG3, or the harmony of BG3, the resonance of it. If you do it counterclockwise, you get the negative aspects of it. If you mix up the directions, there's no BG3 quality. And if you do the 3 in the different direction, again, no BG3. So this is all very interesting, but what does it all mean? Before getting to that, in biogeometry, you learned that the universe looks at things not necessarily in numerals, but in terms of units. So if you put the units there as 3 units, 6 units, and 9 units, and put it in that order, you again have BG3. But if you reverse that, and you don't, if you do the middle 6 or the last 9, or if you go back and do 3 and then come back later and do the other numbers, the universe doesn't see it that way. You don't get BG3. Well, looking at the torus, if torus is central, what about the yin yang? Is there something about that that might be magical? And I don't know if everyone knows it, but we're composed of yin yang energies all over. If you take your hand, you look at every finger, if this is yin, that's yang, yin, yang. The top of your palm is yin, the bottom is yang, and your opposite hand is different. And also, harmony is the basis of, we're all polar, and harmony is putting things into balance. So if things are in balance, there is harmony. And balance and harmony are very, very key concepts. And polarity is a very key concept. Because in Walter Russell's terminology, we are made of polar aspects. So if you have the structure of the yin yang, you don't have any BG3 in it. If you test that for BG3, there isn't any. But if you now start drawing this with clockwise motion, if you do the one, follow the one around the circle, then up in clockwise manner, then come back around, you'll get BG3. Interesting thing about this is that when you do this, it seems like you should be able to just come back around the other direction. And if you do that, all in clockwise motions, what do you get? You get the torus again. And that has the structure, doing it this way, obviously has BG3. So the torus and yin yang are really related very closely. They are the same. There's just a different aspect of it, of the discussion of the torus. And you can see that in Nassim's drawings. Nassim Harriman talks about the basis of a dual torus creating matter. And then you see the structure of the dual torus, one on top of the other, in the picture on the upper right. And what does that say? That's a yin-yang structure, which is very, very interesting. When I went back and looked at that picture. And the other pictures are just showing the geometries that are involved and the stuff that he does, which is all interesting stuff, but we're not talking about that. So we'll go on. Okay, Om. Om is a very interesting creation. In the beginning was a word, and it could be Om. It's vibrational sound of cosmic machinery of creation and destruction. If you look at the Om, which is a very mysterious word, and it has three A-U-M. And supposedly the A signifies the beginning of the universe, U signifies the life period of the universe, and M signifies the destruction of the universe. So everything goes through this cycle that is there. The cycle's never ending, so nothing ever ends, especially consciousness. But that is what Om signifies. And you talk about it in terms of creation. God is the creator, in operation of destruction, Shrishti, which is the universe, the creation, Brahma, Vishnu, operator, Shiva, destructor. So it's the same, again, same concept of the torus is there. Then if you take a look at the symbols of Om, only in the Sanskrit writings of Om is there BG3. You test Om, the Sanskrit version of it, there's BG3 energies, and you can draw it, and you can draw it in a certain way, there'll be BG3 energies. And if you look at the literature, there's some discussions in there. There's a technical mechanical engineer in India, and said that's 369, and you sort of see 369 there. Next, let's talk about Marco Rodin and the vortex math and symbol of enlightenment. That's we're not going through any math, we're not going through lots of things. It's just that this structure is in fact the torus structure, the basis of it, and it's vortex math. And it's 9, 1 to 9, with 9 at the top, and 3 and 6 opposite each other. If you go through and add the numbers up, or keep doubling the numbers, 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, etc., as it's done here, you get a structure that is formed that has that red pattern that's there. Very important pattern, remember that. However, if you double the numbers 9 and keep doubling it, you always get back the root of 9. And digital root means that if like 16, 8 and 8 is 16, 1 plus 6 is 7. So the digital root of this is 7. So the digital root of 9 is always 9. The digital roots of 3 and 6 is always 3 and 6. They vibrate back and forth. So 3 plus 3 is 6, so it vibrates to the other side. 6 plus 6 is 12, which is 3. It vibrates to that other side. It goes on indefinitely in that manner. And therefore, you have this structure that is there, and the blue line then represents, therefore, the manifestation of the 369. And 369 is not part of it. And lo and behold, this structure has BG3 energies in it. And lo and behold, if you Now write the numbers 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, and 1 in sequence as units. You see, and if you go ahead and test that with the BG3 pendulum, you'll see that that has BG3 resonance associated with it. And then the torus structure, if you go ahead and do the math, and Randy Powell has done that, the structure reduces down to or expands into the torus. Bagua is a similar thing, but now you're talking about the Asian versions of the trigrams. You have the broken lines and the solid lines, and that represents the principles of reality. And there's 64 of these guys in the I Ching. And if you then look at Nassim Haramehn's stuff, he talks about the isotropic vector matrix having 64 tetrahedrons coming together to form a sphere, and 2 of these spheres forming a double torus. So everything comes back to the same concept, basically. So now let's go in. Okay, I was speaking with my good friend Regina, who's a channeler, and one time we were on a phone call, and I was talking about this, and Mikao Sushi came through and said, "Look at my symbols; they should have BG3," and I had not done that. So I took a look at the symbols that Reiki folks use, and lo and behold, all these symbols have BG3 energies associated with it. So the next thing I did was, okay, we know about resonance. How can I get resonance with regard to 369? And I understood how you could create resonance, because you can create it with just inscribing the 369 either as lines or 369s as drawn in a particular way. And so if you drew 369 in terms of lines, you'll get a pendulum that will be in resonance of 369 energies, and will give clockwise rotation anytime it encounters 369. Turns out that 369 is very distinct from BG3 energies. BG3 energies appears to be centering and harmonizing quality, and a lot of times you're talking about polar aspects of things of the universe when you're working with it, whether it be a cube or structures or angles or whatever. 369 appears to be coincide with a lot of BG3 qualities, but not always, and appears to be sort of central and sort of maybe controlling aspects of things. So 369 BG3 often come together, but very distinct, and I'll show you why. If you now mix 369 with BG3, here's an emitter pattern, and the pattern, because of the circles and because of the angles, directs energy to the center. So if you're trying to send BG3 energies to a person, you can use that. But as soon as you put 369 in the middle of that, no more BG3 can be measured, and no more 369 can be measured. If you look at the whole structure, you do the same thing with the cube, you do the same thing with a clearing plate. No matter what you do, if you put it together, and the secret is putting it together, that nullifies the BG3 and the 369 in terms of being able to measure it. Not necessarily that you're not neutralizing or doing anything, but in terms of being able to measure it, you can't measure it at that point. Then I decided to go back and look at the basic structures of the TORUS, Yin Yang, the symbol of enlightenment, and the Bagua. And it turns out only the power symbol of Reiki has a certain energy. Everything has BG3, but the ones that have 369, all these structures have 369 energies. The rest of the Reiki symbols do not have 369 energies. But then, if you go into the center, because the whole basis of a torus is everything goes through and passes the center. If you go into the center of things, if you go into the center of the torus and measure for BG3, there's no BG3. Same with the Yin Yang, same with the symbol of enlightenment or vortex math, same with Bagua, same with the power symbol for Reiki. So that again is very, very interesting. And if you go through the 369 as numbers or units for symbol of enlightenment or 369, or the Om, you get both BG3 and 369. Now, why am I here? Okay. I decided to look at myself or any other person. Everyone's the same. Everyone has BG3 energies throughout the body. And typically, in biogeometry, you're taught to, when you look at BG3, you just go ahead and get a BG3 pendulum, which is in resonance with BG3, and it goes clockwise automatically. And if you look at the structure of me there, it has BG3 everywhere. But then I decided, since the center is the controlling point, and one always talks about the center of the person having all the chakras and everything else and the flow of energies through the center. If you look at the center of me and you look for BG3, there's no BG3 in the center. But if you look at 369, there's 369 in the center. So just like the torus and others, there's 369 in the center, BG3 overall, but no BG3 in the center, just the 369. So it's a very distinct energy difference that is there. Okay, why be excited about 369? Well, it does present another way to look at BG3. You can look at 369 and anything that BG3 gives you, 369 will do the same, because 369 for the most part has BG3 in it for most things, not always. So you can use any, if you can write, I can't see that, but it has on a piece of paper 3, 6, and 9 on it as lines. Those things will do the same thing for harmonizing things. If you want to harmonize EMF, put it on a phone, you can put 369 on it, it'll harmonize the EMFs of the phone. So you can do those types of things. But you cannot mix the symbols together of 369 and anything BG3. You can go one or the other, but never both, basically. That is together. As long as they're separate. If you hold this cube and this paper separate, they're separate entities and there's no cross-contamination at all. It's when you try to put one on top of the other, that's when you run into a problem. Okay, let me go to the next slide. And it turns out that you can use the 369 in various ways. And Joachim Wippich is a wonderful dowser and healer. And he invites people to be healed, and he lets people heal themselves by inviting them to come into harmony and increasing their vibrational level. And he teaches people how to do that. It's a very, very effective way of doing that. And he often uses the 369 as a tool for that. You can use that in terms of the pendulum that will have the 369 energies in it. It's just like using a BG3 pendulum that has BG3 energies in it, but you can have a pendulum that's 369 energies in it, and it'll do something very similar to the BG3 pendulum. So you can use the symbols of 369 to bring about harmony. You can use that to increase a person's vibrational levels. You can have a person repeat affirmations. And Joachim has wonderful affirmations to bring people into harmony and to bring them into the right vibrational state. And he has to repeat it 3 times, then 6 times, then 9 times. And that brings about the harmony that's needed for healing to occur. Very, very powerful. And what he does is absolutely marvelous. Okay, now I'll jump into another field that's very related. And that's the field of ORMUS and GANS. And I'll define these elements to you so you'll have an idea what this is all about. And I believe that much of creation and what you're creating in terms of monatomic elements with ORMUS and GANS has to do with 369. And it turns out that the fields you create with ORMUS and with GANS all have BG3 energies in it. And the researchers in this field have been working without a way of knowing is their field effective or not. Without a lot of testing, because there's been no way to detect it. And with the 369 pendulum, now there is a way to detect these fields. And that can accelerate the growth of this very exciting field. So let's see. Okay, in terms of GANS, what is GANS? Gas in a nano state. Okay, what does that mean? Well, on the far left, you have a solid. In that picture, the little circles, you have solid. Liquid is not as tightly bound and can flow around. So you have the liquid and it flows around. It's in the gas phase. Then you have another state of matter, which people have not really been talking about, and people may know nothing about it. They've never heard about it. But Keshi, if you go and look at the YouTube, you'll read a lot about that. And you read about ORMUS, you'll read a lot about that. So you have the nano phase and the GANS phase and the plasma phase. In terms of energetic levels, we have solid, that's the lowest energy, but if you have these states, the plasma is the highest energy. But as you go from the gas, you get something that is called nano, and it's basically captured gas. And if it flows above it, you have what's called the GANS state. And all these, according to Keshi, are like miniature suns. They're all, he calls them maggrav units. And maggrav is magnetic and gravity. So what did Walter Russell talk about when he was talking about the vortexes? It's the spinning, spiraling in would be gravity coming in that forms matter. And then the spiraling out is a disintegration of matter. So one is pushing out and one is pushing in or being pulled in. And that's like a wormhole. And that's what Nassim Haramein talks about. So basically, it is gravity is the energies pulling in, and the energies pushing out is the magnetic energies, and the pushing out and reforming of fields is what the plasma fields are all about. So you can have these things in a jar, and you have these things in the surrounding areas, which are basically the same thing. They're just magnetic gravitational units. We'll talk about it in another slide. Again, I'm talking about this because you're going to be creating BG3 in these fields that you create. So here is one way to create GANS, gas in the nanostate. You have a solid on the bottom, which is a copper wire. And if you treat it with alkali or you put a flame to it, it loosens the bonds of some of the copper atoms. You get a black mix above it. And now this black mix is interesting. It is now a superconductor. So if you flow electrons through this at room temperature, now you have a superconductor, and electricity will flow without resistance because these particles are separated. They're not like in the copper. They're separated so electrons can flow, and above that are the monatomic copper, and that's what's shown up here, and it's in a solid state also. And so one is called nano and one is called GANS. And here you show this slide. This is all from the Keshe Foundation. The matter state, the nano state. The nano state can use its fields to form GANs, or if you're doing like forming ORMUS, I'll show you how that's done very, very easily. And these things will form fields, and the fields will form, I'll talk about the fields because the fields themselves are very, very interesting. So this is a new understanding of nanomaterials. GANs and fields is what plasma science is all about. These fields are magnetic fields, and everything in the universe is made from magnetic fields and their interactions. And it goes from the atom to the body to the universe. And all these are made from these fields. And we'll see more about this in a few minutes. And it's, when you form GANs, it's like you have a couple of ceramic or magnets, disc magnets, and the magnets will always interact and always rearrange themselves so they attract or repulse. And that's what's happening when you form GANs or you form ORMUS. You form this material that is always interacting, and is always interacting with each other, and there's gravitational forces pulling in and magnetic forces pushing out all the time. And that's called maggrav. So maggrav is a good way to look at all of this. And this is just a summary of that concept of maggrav. It's in motion in, which is again, Russell Walter, motion in is gravity, motion out of spirals is all spirals. Spiraling out, even though this is not shown as a spiral, but spiraling out is the magnetic aspect of pushing out. So ORMUS. In the early days of ORMUS, if you follow that literature, and David Hudson informing ORMUS, and very little was understood about it, but they worked with gold and lead, and the matter just behaved in ways that they couldn't measure. There's no way of measuring it other than the fact that they knew they had something that was different. And it turns out that that sea salt, or sea salt in general, you can make ORMUS very easily. All I have to do is take a solution of sea salt at a particular concentration, add alkali to it, or sodium carbonate, bring the pH to 11. You get this fluffy material that's formed, and eventually it'll settle down. And a lot of people eat it because it has this unbelievable energy associated with it. And people applied this type of material to a cat who lost its tail through an accident, and the tail grew back. You give it to plants, you get oranges that grow to the size of grapefruits. So you have all these stories that are in the literature. But ORMUS is easy to create. And this is something that I created here. Fields now are very, very interesting. Here we have a vial on the far right side, and basically, if you have these vials, you have a single vial there, yeah, you're going to detect some 369 energies there. Not much, but there's a little bit there. If you put 4 different vials in a row, you'll detect some 369 energies. But then if you put 4 vials in a square or rectangle, doesn't matter what, you now have both BG3 and 369 energies. And the green is the quality of 369, and the BG, the reddish tint that is there, is the quality of BG3. Put 3 vials there, nothing. Put vials in these other patterns, and vials that are in different geometries. You don't get a feel that you can measure. Not to say that there isn't anything there, but in terms of measuring with a pendulum, you don't get it. If you put a certain number of vials in a circle, you get BG3 and 369 in the circle. Now this is interesting. If you now have this square, You put vials in the 4 corners of the house. The whole house now has 369 and BG3 energies. And these vials are tiny. They're only about 3 inches high, basically. But now it's affecting both upstairs and downstairs in terms of the field it has created. Then I said, well, if you 4 vials does it, what about if I have another 4 vials upstairs? If I do that, the fields disappear. No more BG3, no more 369. Again, very interesting. If you have tubes, you just get a little bit of energy in the tubes. If you connect the tubes in a triangle, you get the energies in the center. If you connect the energies in a tube that's not connected, you get energies in the center. If you connect the tubes, you get the energies outside the circle. And if you put it into a square or rectangle, you get the energies outside. And the energies of 369 go beyond the energies of BG3. Now these circles here, if you suddenly put 4 vials around it, energy goes away. If you put, like in this thing here, the circle, you put a vial of ORMUS into there, energies go away. That is, I don't know where the energies are. We're learning about this, and so you're learning as I'm learning. I'm just giving you information, basically, so that you have a feel for this. From Keshe Foundation, if you go through his websites and you look at plasma production, which sells a lot of Keshe materials, you'll see images of uses of this for all sorts of things. And he's given the information out to everybody because he figures that people will play with it and learn, and therefore understand this, and it can't be hidden away. So anyone can go to his websites and pick up whatever information they want. And the slides I've had before were from him. So now I'm gonna go through some other concepts, because these concepts really talk about who we really are, and it gets down to how we pick up our energies and pick out food and how we digest things. At least it's a hypothesis. So the first part of it is, and these are all Keshe images, our body's made up of billions of GANSes, forming a total plasma of the body. Plants are the same thing. It's billions of GANSes that form it. So in the body, everything is in a GANS state, and matter is in that state. Food is being taken up not in the way we normally think about it, but in the GANS, it's picked up as GANS materials in the stomach, and the fields are absorbed through the layers of the intestinal walls. Your body creates a condition to change matter to GANS state and vice versa. Very profound statement, and it'll be interesting to see what science develops from this as we go into the future. However, our bodies do resonate with 369. I can take a 369 pendulum, and our bodies all resonate with 369. So obviously 369 or GANS fields are in us, as well as BG3 fields. So plants interact with the fields, and his profound statement is plants are not absorbing any matter state from the soils or environment. They're interacting with the fields of the soil, the air, CO2, etc. Different way of looking at things. Again, everything's coming back to the MAGRAPH fields. Okay, here's an interesting experiment that I did a few days ago. What I did was I took some food and flaxseed, had some ground flaxseed materials that I bought from the store, ground that up, put in a little bit of lemon juice for a little bit of acidity, put in a little bit of sea salt, a little bit of water, so it's no longer alkaline, it's acidic. Now bring this up to body temperature. I got the idea to do this, I didn't make all this up. There's a lot of stuff in YouTube. And so I got the idea to do this set of experiments in that way. So bring the temperature up to body temperature, about 97 degrees or 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and let it sit for 6 minutes. And lo and behold, the flaxseed, lemon juice, seawater, sea salt, and water did not have any GANs, did not have any BG3. By letting it sit for 6 minutes at body temperature, you get 369 and BG3. Okay, that's the first experiment. Next experiment is you take the same materials, but now you add sodium carbonate, which is an alkaline material. And you sort of think of the role of bile salts in your body as being this, and that's the reason I use the sodium carbonate. But I didn't do enough to change the acidity. I just changed the acidity to a pH around 4.5. Now, if you bring the temperature up to, again, at this point, no BG3, no 369. But if you bring bring the temperature up to body temperature, very rapidly, within 3 minutes, you get conversion into GANs. You get 369 in BG3 form. That is, you get GANs. The next experiment is the stomach is acidic. So what if you do this? Now I'm going to change the pH to something acidic. I'm just going to add a little bit of hydrochloric acid, and that's your stomach. Your stomach is hydrochloric acid. That's the reason you don't drink alkaline water after you eat. You keep your digestion going with the acid stomach. And what happens there is that the pH now drops down to pH 2 with a little bit of acid, and immediately you get GANs formation, very strong GANs formation. You get 369 and BG3. So in a certain sense, you're sort of demonstrating what Keshe is talking about, that everything is of this nature, and that you are forming GANs, and maybe it's the GANs that you're ingesting. And then the concept that Keshe is always talking about is that now you can feed the world, because all you have to do is make the GANs, you can make flaxseed or anything else, and drink the water, which will now have GANs in it. And now if you replenish the water and drink that water, as long as it doesn't go bad, you can drink it as long as it doesn't go bad, and you're drinking GANs, and you're giving yourself nutrition. Think about the yogis, and they don't drink and they don't eat, for those few that don't. And you wonder, how are they living? Well, they may be living off the plasma fields, and now they've learned how to bring in the fields into themselves, and that's may be how they are doing it. Lots of conjecture, and that's what this purpose of this talk is, to give you conjecture and things to think about. But don't think that everything is perfect. You can run into deep, deep problems when playing with this material. And I had a friend, and he did what I did, put some GANs in the 4 corners, but not in the house, but outside the house, and buried it. Okay, what happened then was the pesticide guys came and sprayed around the perimeters of the house. And as a result, because the GANs is picking up what it picks up, it's picking up in this case, the pesticide had something called vertical negative green, which is deadly. And in the early days of radiesthesia, when they're starting to study these fields, one of the key pioneers, his friend found him, and he was dead and mummified. That was because he was creating, through his structures, vertical negative green, except that no one had told him that there's such a thing as vertical negative green that can do any harm. So he died and was mummified. And luckily, I told this person, well, I wanted to test some things. I said, look at the BG3 in your house right now. Is it increasing? And she did. And lo and behold, there's no BG3 in her house any longer. And she then tested further, and there was tremendous amount of vertical negative green in the house. It had created all this materials that is not so, that would have, in essence, killed her if left unknown to her. So that happened, and that's the precaution. I think for the most part, as long as you play with it properly, I think it's very good, and I think has a lot of potential in free energy and feeding the world and lots of other things. But we're still in the early stages of it, and you don't know what you don't know, basically. Okay, next thing, and this is the last slide, but I sort of saved this for the end, because the purpose of my research in water has been, for many years, how do you change water so that everyone can see the changes in the water, and the scientists can no longer say, and go poo-poo and say, oh, you didn't change anything, nothing really happened. If you try to use intention to change things, people will bless water and do things, or bless food, and people think, yeah, these guys are just doing things, I'll go along with it, or whatever they're thinking. And I wanted people to think a little bit differently from that. Now we have a couple of energies now that you can measure, BG3 and 369, with two different types of pendulums. And if you take 4 vials of ORMUS, and just 4 simple little vials, and put them on a table, it's going to create a field, and you can detect that field with both the BG3 pendulum and the pendulum that you've put 369 on, 369 pendulum. And the energies are there. Okay. What I was very surprised at was I then made a decision of let's see what happens. Can I move the energy from one spot to another? So I just said, energy in these vials, move over here. Then I tested the 369 and BG3 energies that were in between the vials. No longer there, no BG3, no 369. The energies were now next to it. Okay, is that something special that Jerry can do? No, anyone can do this. I told my wife, this is very interesting. And my wife didn't believe a single word I was saying. And I said, I'll show you. I'll take this energy and I'll move from here to there. And I see, I'm testing it. Yeah, sure, okay. You're just playing around with your pendulum. Okay, then what I told her to do was, okay, you move it. And so she moved it to another location. So I tested where it was initially, and where it was is no longer there. It's now in the next location. So anyone can do this. And again, this proves what, in terms of consciousness, who we are and what we are. And it's another indication of the I am. So with that, I'll leave it to your imagination as to what to do with all this information. But I thought that this is interesting stuff, and I'll turn this over to Judy, and I'll answer questions, because I'm sure there's a ton of questions, and I'll click my stop sharing right here. Okay.
Okay, so I think I am still, I'm back to being host. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. So if you have a question for Jerry, I'm going to say, go ahead and unmute yourself. I could unmute everybody, but I think we'll just, if you have a question, just unmute yourself and go ahead, and we'll see how this works.
Hey, Jerry, this is Todd White. I was wondering what kind of a string length you end up calibrating with on the 369 pendulum.
I didn't either. It's just like with the BG3 pendulum. I found that there's really, with the BG3 pendulum, you could calibrate things and do things, but normally I just take a certain length and just go for it. And I do the same thing with the 369. It's in the pendulum itself is going to be in resonance with whatever. So this is my 369 pendulum. I have a number of them simply because it's fairly easy to make, and it's in resonance with 369. And I just hold it about the same length as I do any other pendulum. It's not like the personal wavelength where you calibrate to something, like you calibrate to yourself, your personal wavelength, and then it goes into a circle. By the way, that's a very interesting thing that for everyone to really learn, by the way, getting your own personal wavelength, because then you can put your hand over anything and you know whether it's good for you or not good for you, because it'll rotate clockwise. Just another aside of interesting information that you're getting tonight.
With the BG16 pendulum, which automatically will pick up BG3 due to the shape of it, you can also optimize that spin and make it more sensitive by getting a length. I was wondering if you ever had tried that with the 369 to see if you had an optimal.
I haven't tried it. I'm sure I probably could. I just figured that it's working and that was good enough for me, but I'm sure you probably can.
I'm just kind of curious what kind of quality that would come out to, if it was like a certain color quality or something along those lines.
I'd say work with it and find out, and I'd love to get more information of all this stuff. I'm just learning about this. By the way, this stuff I've learned ever since I heard Bob Whitehouse, was probably in maybe October of last year. And then all this other information is coming at me bit by bit. And a lot of it's coming at me through synchronicity, by the way. I'm directed to some of this information, and like Mikao Yusushi coming in from the other side saying, try the Reiki, it works. And I've had some other information come in that I won't talk about that makes this stuff even more interesting. So information is flowing. This talk basically opens up this field to whoever wants to play with this field. And all I'm doing is playing with it because there's so much that is there. And sure, I'd love for you to, whoever plays with it, communicate with me so I can continue in improving the repertoire of this information. And if anyone wants details of what I've done, I'll share anything I have with you, because it's I'm like Keshi in this case. It's for the world, and if people can feed themselves later because of this talk and learn about it, great. That's fine. That's okay with me. And if people can use this energy to create a better world and improve the levels of consciousness and harmony, because this is all harmony energy, basically. The whole basis of what, by the way, what Walter Russell was talking about is in fact harmony. He's saying that God created everything in terms of polarity, but everything is trying to come back to harmony. So if you have a seesaw and the seesaw is there, the problems of the world and problems of relationships and problems everywhere is due to imbalances that are there. And it's trying to get that balance. And so the philosophical end of this whole discussion is create balance. This balance is love, this balance is harmony, and try to get into that level of balance. And that's where things will then start happening again. And therefore, to give the world that energy. The next question.
Thanks, Jerry. This is really interesting.
Thanks, Todd.
Hi, Jerry. This is
Hi, Valerie. Can you come a little bit closer to your speaker? I can't quite hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. Can you hear me now? No, I don't.
You're welcome.
Hang on. Just a second.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. It's very exciting. So I have a couple questions. One is, when you showed that picture of yourself standing there, saying that you were BG3 energy. And the 369, I was trying to understand how you got to that place. Is it, you know, that you, or are you just feeling balance and harmony in your body? You're
No.
using the BG pendulum. What, how'd you get yourself there?
You look at your picture of yourself or the person itself or any other person. And when you now look at the center of the person, it's your attention. Everything is your attention. If you're looking at the whole body, then everything has BG3 and 369. But if you focus into the center of the body, where the spinal cord is at, look at that center. Then do the BG3. If you look at now the energy of BG3, with that focus, not of the whole body, but that focus of the center, then you'll find that the BG3 is not there. And then if you do that with the 369 pendulum, you'll still see that BG3 energy is there. The same with when we did that emitter sheet. If you look at the whole sheet and has the 3, 6, and 9 lines there, if you look at the whole sheet, you'll see that BG3 and 369 are missing. But now if you focus specifically your attention on the 369 units, that still has the 369 energies associated with it. Does that make it any clearer?
Yes. And the other thing I do sometimes, because you taught us this at the Christmas party, you know, you didn't have a lot of time, but I've been using the 369 and the numbers. So sometimes if I'm driving around someplace and I feel like there's disharmony, I'll just make 3, 6, and the 9, you know, all clockwise with my finger when I'm in that area. And do you think that's making a difference?
I think all these things make a difference. I think just the mind in that area of 369 will make a difference, just like your mind is into harmony. It makes a difference. I clear myself that way also sometimes. And the other way I clear myself, which you'll probably enjoy, if I do any mental dowsing. Now, radiesthesia and BG3 and 369 are not mental dowsing. It's very distinct from that. Mental dowsing is you're trying to get something. Here, you're trying to just look at rotations and just be aware of things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing mental dowsing, and some of you do mental dowsing, do what Joachim teaches. And what he teaches is invite if you're a woman, invite your right brain to come together with the left brain and your heart in harmony, and then repeat. Invite your right brain with your left brain to come together with your heart in harmony, and you come clear. It helps to bring you into harmony. So that's another way to do that. And with men, it's just the reverse. You invite your right brain first, and then your left brain to come together with the heart in harmony, and then go for the left brain and right brain together with the heart in harmony. That's another way to do it. But use of the 369, the way that Joachim uses it, he can use a pendulum and he can spin the pendulum, and that'll help. He'll have people repeat affirmations, harmony affirmations, and harmony affirmations simply means inviting harmony in with the disharmony. And he teaches that because we're all polar, and because of that, we're not always in sync. And therefore, if it's out of sync, you're inviting yourself to come back into sync, come back into harmony with the disharmony, and now you're in balance. And that is a key lesson that Joachim teaches. The other key lesson is bring your vibrational level up. In my new book, which Joachim is going to be a central part of it, is that whole aspect of learning who you are to bring that I am energy into play. So hopefully that, thank you, Valerie.
Thank you. And let's use this universally, globally, to like balance and harmonize all this chaos and, you know, this stuff.
Yeah.
Let's use it, everybody. Thank you so much, Jerry.
Well, thank you. Other questions?
I have a question. This is Barbara Deutsch.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi, Jerry. So I'm both a BG3 type, biogeometry student as well as a mental dowser. And I'd never heard of a 369 pendulum before. Could you describe it a bit and the different attributes it has? Because I'm wondering how I could create one for myself.
Very, very easy to create. I'll tell you how I create mine, and then how you can create one even easier. Basically, I can take any pendulum and let's see, I'll take this pendulum here. I've created, here's a little pendulum. Let me get it closer to there so you can see it. It's some type of, I don't know what type of material it's at, but it can be glass, it can be some other materials, it can be something like this. And if it's like this, you can do it in a number of different ways. If you have a carbide pen, and you can buy those for $10 at Amazon, or go to the local hardware store, and you can scratch 3, 6, and 9 on the surface of the pendulum. If you do it 2, 3 times, it's even more powerful, but you have to do it very carefully. You can't, if you don't understand the concept of it, play with paper first. If you draw 3 lines, and then 6 lines, and then 9 lines with a little separation between it, so the universe sees 3, 6, 9, that pendulum will then become a 3, 6, 9 pendulum. But if you do it and do 3, and then you go away, and then do 6, and then go away, and then do 9, it's not going to work. Or if you now reverse it and do 9, and then there's a space in there, I'll do the 3, and then I'll do the 6. No, it's not going to work. The universe looks at that whole thing that you've done and the intention and that flow. So you have to do it that way. And so 3, 6, 9 can be done that way, or you can draw 3 and then the 6 clockwise, and then the 9 basically clockwise, so that again, you look at the directions. If you do it in the wrong direction, you're not going to get it. But then you can test it. You do 3, 6, 9 on a piece of paper, and then you test if your pendulum is picking it up. If you do more than one, it's more powerful. And the other thing that some people were wondering how to make one of these, and I said, well, you could probably just write it on with a very fine Sharpie, fine version. And so this one I've done that way, and I've just done 3, 6, 9 with lines on it. It's a long enough pendulum, but I can do that, and I can do it on different surfaces, parts of it, and I could have 3 of these guys on a pendulum, and it's a very powerful 3, 6, 9 pendulum. The negative is if you start using it a lot and put it in your pocket and rubbing it, you'll rub off the 3, 6, 9, and it may not work. But in the meantime, it'll work. So you can create these things. Easy to do.
So if you were to engrave the lines, like the 3 and the 6 and the 9 lines, would you typically do all the engraving on one side or on different sides?
I don't think it makes any difference.
Okay.
I don't think the universe looks at that. I think the universe is just looking at, do you have 3, 6, 9 there?
This is really cool. Thank you.
Good.
Yep. Hello, Dr. Jin. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Vic.
Yep. Thank you so much. I had to turn the light down a little bit. And so I suffer from the electromagnetic hypersensitivity for years. I had an office. I still have an office in downtown San Carlos. And behind me, there's an AT&T substation that has towers. And I ended up painting my office with the electromagnetic frequency, this black paint that has, again, these metals, I believe it's silver and some copper, to give me some shielding. But I think it's still coming off of the windows, or it's bouncing off of the other building and coming into the windows. So I can't really kind of use my office, because when I go there, I get this burning in my esophagus. And I'm also now taking the classes with Dr. Kareem, learning about biogeometry. And I have the pendulum here, and also I bought something called georesonators, which they do emit BG3, and I was just very curious about that I can do the same thing with, again, like you just mentioned, the vial with, again, that material inside the vial. Is that correct? Or just empty vials?
No. These are ORMUS vials.
ORMUS vials. Yeah.
Well, the BG3 stuff that Cream sells and FMBR sells it also are all very, very powerful stuff. And you don't run, the beauty of BG3 stuff is that you don't run the risk of doing what my friend did and running a contamination, because we're learning about things, and I don't want people to think that, just playing with it, I can do anything, because you have to learn and see and play and understand. But yeah, you can't create a ORMUS, and you can't put it in 4 parts of the room, and you can test the amount of BG3, and I've done that in our house, and the BG3 amount in our house is, I have a BG3 ruler, and the amount of BG3 in our house is above the level of the ruler, basically. So you can do that, and you can create harmonizing energies in that way. I think there's a role for everything that is there. The 369 stuff is just the beginnings of stuff, and this is only month 8 or so of learning of this stuff, and much of it is just learning fairly recently as I do things and play with things and learn. You get different pieces of information and you learn about things. So BG3 is safe and it's good, and I think is a good thing to do, and I say continue doing it. And I look at all the electrical stuff you have in the house and use and neutralize all the electrical inputs into the house and smart meters and anything around the house with BG3 stuff. Or you could try 369 stuff. That's also fairly innocent because it's just 3 and 6 and 9, and you can play with them. There's numbers when you learn biogeometry from Ibrahim or Gilbert, and you learn 16s and 9s and certain other numbers because the universe looks at numbers, and you use those things and do additional things in addition to the cubes. And I do everything possible to neutralize the wrong word, harmonize the space you have. And I think you can harmonize it a lot, because there's other things that may be going on in your house also. I don't know anything about grid lines and water flows underneath the house and all those types of things that you learned from Kareem and Gilbert. But they all make a difference. So as you build up the levels of BG3 in your house, you probably can get to a level where the room no longer bothers you. At least I'm hopeful for that, because I think that if you do enough of that, you can get to that stage. It's harmonizing.
Yep. I got your email and I will be in touch. I definitely would love to, get if you have more time to learn more and maybe try to experiment
Sure.
more with these items. Yeah, I'm also working with one of the co-inventors of Wi-Fi, Dr. Hatem Zagloul, and he's also from Egypt, and I'm actually working with him, and wanted to kind of arrange a meeting with Dr. Kareem, or maybe even
Oh, that would be marvelous.
right? To kind of see how we can maybe get the FCC involved or get some of these larger telecommunication companies to install, this technology in the routers or maybe on the cell sites, and to really kind of do something for mankind like you're doing, sharing this incredible information. Like I said, I've been suffering from this for years, and I'm literally just got this idea of, like maybe a week ago, I'm like, well, why don't I connect this picture? Why am I meeting these people? And, on these calls, is maybe there's, a bigger reason to connect these people together to harmonize the world and restore that energy balance that you mentioned.
That is marvelous. I've been wishing that someone could do that and get these companies and governments, etc., because it's a very simple thing to harmonize everything if you look at it from the beginning. if you harmonize the initial Wi-Fi stations, then it's broadcasting then harmonized energies. You're broadcasting harmony versus disharmony. And so
Incredible.
very crucial that I wish you lots of luck on that because that's really the answer to this 5G stuff that is trying to control and kill us, basically.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I suffer from it. I literally was on my laptop this morning and yesterday. I hardwired the whole house, but I have literally a headache, just still a migraine headache because somehow the Wi-Fi came on my laptop and I'm like, I can't work. I've been like just agitated. So, Dr. Jen, I will actually get in touch with Dr. Hatem and I will send you an email to, create an introductory meeting with you. And we'll see where this goes and talk together and see if we can get some traction. And I have more about this idea of how we can potentially get the FCC attention or AT&T and some of these big telecom companies by launching a potentially new version of this frequency that is more harmonizing to humanity.
Yeah, well, Ibrahim Karim's stuff is so good. He did the harmonization of two cities, Hamburg and Würzburg, and he knows this field inside out. What I'm doing is just at the very beginning. So he's the guy that is really key, but I'm happy to share my knowledge with anybody because I think it's important knowledge.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Jen. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the
Jerry.
Yeah.
We have a couple of questions in the chat. If you could just talk, people want to know about how this would work to counteract 5G or viruses like the coronavirus. And then also someone who lives in a high-rise building wants to know where you would place the vials if you're, if you don't have that property.
Basically, if you just have the vials within your house, at the four distant corners of the house, at the lowest floor of your house, that should do it, basically. And again, be careful with regard to if you're working with the ORMUS materials, just in case anyone puts anything negative into there. So this is the beginning of this whole new technology, and precautions are always good. And let's see, the other question was 5G with regard
5G
to what?
And viruses.
Oh, viruses. Ibrahim has various emitter sheets that gives harmonizing things and also gives things that are in sync or in harmony with regard to the energies of immunity to help boost immunity, and those are always good things to have. What it does with coronavirus, don't really know for sure, so I don't want to give any definitive statements with regard to that. I know that the guys, if you go to some of the Keshe stuff, talk about viruses and things of that nature. And I know that there's some fields that they talk about that supposedly works in this area, but I've not really worked with that. And so I'd be remiss in saying, do this or do that. But having a high immune levels is always good. And harmony is really one of the key things of immunity. One doesn't think about that, but to bring yourself into harmony on a daily basis and bring yourself into the I am state. And Joaquin teaches you to rethink and rethink the I am. And what he's doing is bringing people into the I am state so that they can, their higher vibration is more resistant to all these things of viruses, bacteria, etc. And there's also a lot of good stuff outside of biogeometry and 369 that people somehow get hidden away from people because of the people in power that make certain statements, and some of those things are the Klinghardt stuff. If you ever listen to that, or if anyone wants me to forward you materials, he has a lot of good stuff. Mary Cummings has a lot of good things that she does. I have a lot of good things that I do in those areas. So there are other things that are there that we still pay attention to. So keeping yourself in harmony, especially at these times, is good. And having the 369 for harmony, having the BG3 for harmony, you can never have too much of harmony. And that's that definitely I would preach that.
Do we have a Joaquim's last name or website?
You can send it, send me an email, and I'll make sure he gets it. He doesn't have any practice and personal practice, but he often shows up at a particular Starbucks on the weekends on certain days, and so I don't want him to be inundated with things. If he wants to unmute himself and wants to say anything, fine. He might be on, but I'll whatever you give me, I'll get to him.
Well, what is his last name? Because maybe, is it Whippet?
Whippage, right? Whippage.
Yeah, and you might, Jerry, you might want to facilitate that, because that is one of his ongoing requests for years, is to go through others. And if he agrees that you give this information out freely, that's a different story. But so far, that's not been the request.
Yeah. Right. And I want to honor that particular request. And that's the reason I'm saying, if you want to get hold of Joaquim, get hold of me, and I'll be happy to let him know, and then he can do whatever he wants.
Right.
He's a very generous man. He's a
very, yes.
Unbelievable guy.
But let's make sure he wants that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Thanks, Jessica. Any other questions?
Yes. Do you have a recipe for ORMUS that you can just tell us?
Let's see. I think it's around what I think I'm doing is final concentration of Dead Sea salt. Let me email that to you. Email me your information, basically. But I use just two components: Dead Sea salt and sodium carbonate, and it's a mixture of the two. And most mixtures will probably work, but there's some that are probably more optimal with regard to that. And I don't remember exactly what I did the last go around on that. But email me, and I'll be happy to tell you. Can you give us your email? Jerry@fmbr.org with a J, Jerry @fmbr.org.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm not reading the chat, so someone will have to look at it and tell me.
Yeah, I'm reading it.
Okay.
Okay, so are there any more questions? We're going to say going once.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi,
Hi.
Jack.
Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi, thanks for this program. I missed the first part of it. It's like, So, but I have a couple people that I think would really benefit by seeing it. How do I get that? Is that possible?
It may be possible, and that's going to be Judy's and Mary's domain with regard to what happens after this.
Okay, awesome.
For posting this, I was told that the live stream on YouTube stopped, right, pretty early on, and not sure why that happened. It said we were violating terms and conditions, and I'm not really clear on what that might be. But according to my screen, it still says it's live on YouTube, and I have a link that I believe is recording. So I will try to repost it tonight.
Thank you.
This is Jessica's trying to talk.
Oh, and Mary wants to know if you,
Yeah, Suzukan.
your thoughts on 5G.
Do I have thoughts on 5G? I got tons
Well,
of thoughts.
on this for 5G. I'm sure there's a lot of thoughts on 5G.
Well, I think that 369 and BG3 both harmonize it. As long as you don't put them one on top of each other, they'll add to the quality of harmony in any particular room, in any particular device. So if you know of a device and you draw and can write on the device, that's ideal. 9 and 16 or 3, 6, 9, not together, one or the other, then I think that will help harmonize it. And same thing with your cell phones and any other piece of equipment, computers. Every single piece of equipment I have in the house is harmonized with either something that I bought from biogeometry, or I put in the numerals into there, so that everything that from this computer to my phone to anything else, has that harmony in it. And basically my house is harmonized.
369 is also used in numerology.
Yeah.
Any comments about that, the connection to numerology?
Well, I think it comes from that vortex math symbol and enlightenment thing. There may be a number of different answers to this question. So I'll just answer one. I'll just give you the one answer that is obvious to me. And the obvious answer is that 369 is the basis of the or the control of the torus structure. And you saw that in the symbol of enlightenment, in which the 9 was on top, and the 9 is sort of the head or king or queen or whatever you want to call it of numbers, because you double that number in any way, shape, or form, it always comes back to the root of 9. And the 3 and 6 is a vibration of the universe. And anytime you double any number with from the 3 or 6 and keep going higher and higher, it always just bounces back and forth. And whereas creation is really the other set of numbers, the 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, 1, back to 1 again. So that's the creation aspect of it. So it's intimately involved in creation. They talk about Tesla when he was living in New York, and he'd go around his house 3 times, and then 6 times, and then 9 times, because he felt the need to do that, and understood that that was the way to get maybe some of his inspiration. And the other folks on the other side know all about 369. It's an important number, and but yeah, there's probably lots of different ways to look at 369, but that's one way to look at 369.
Thank you.
Jerry, Judith wants to know if you use a Gauss meter or ohm meter to record before and after.
No, the Gauss meters and other meters, I haven't changed the level of energy at all in the house. And that's not the basis of harmonization from the biogeometry perspective or the basis of what I've been talking about. But what you're doing with harmonizing with biogeometry is not affecting the energy that is there. What you're doing is creating a field, and field may not be the right word for it either. The way Ibrahim describes it, you may have a sort of a jagged edge around something, and it's not very harmonious. And so what you're doing with biogeometry and with 369 is creating another row around all that that puts everything into harmony. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. I was taking a class with Gilbert, and we're doing an exercise, and the exercise was to activate the brain in the auditory centers of the brain. And so we did that, and everyone's making lots of noise and talking, so there's lots of cacophony noise going around. Okay, as soon as I activated the auditory portion of my mind, or consciousness, or whatever you want to call it, then the noise was still there. The noise didn't change, but now the noise level was harmonious. It was, yeah, there's there, but it's no longer stuff going on. So it harmonized it. And the same thing with looking at EMF. You activate the auditory areas of the brain, and therefore, when you look at something, like you look at a light, and anytime you look at a light, and Ibrahim teaches that, and you test it, you can, because you're focusing on the light. When you test for BG3, you get the opposite of that, and it's no good for you. But if you activate the brain or your consciousness with regard to looking at that focus, when you look at that, now there's BG3. So it is something that you do as you activate your brain, or I'm sure that if you come into harmony, and Joaquin will probably teach it a slightly different way, come into harmony and bring your vibration up, you'll do this exactly the same thing. And he's very good at that. He teaches when you come into the harmony basis, everything is quiet. It's like when you meditate and you want to bring in that quietness in the mind, sometimes it may be difficult, but when you use the 369 or you do what Joaquin teaches, you can get into that state very, very rapidly. So that's another thing that is sort of very interesting. Okay. Any other questions?
Jerry, this is Derek. I have one question. Can you, this is a very interesting talk, by the way. Thank you for it. Can you describe when one would use the 369 energy for like a harmonization application versus the BG3? What's the difference, and when would you use one and when would you use the other?
Well, BG3 is well known at this point in time, so I'd always reference back to BG3. 369 is the symbols of 369. I think you can use anywhere. The energies of the fields of 369 with the ORMUS and GANS, I'd be more cautious about, simply because I don't think we fully understand it all. Although people are using it and doing it and doing experiments, but they don't know what they're doing at this point in time. They may know it, I should say that. They may know what they're doing, but when I look at the fields and I see images of people doing a coil or a tube and putting it around a fruit or whatever, and thinking that that is going to energize that fruit, they don't realize that the field is all around it, but not there. So there's things that you don't know about fields. If you write a 369 on anything, perfectly valid. Cubes, Ibrahim's done a lot of work on those things, and the new series of cubes are super. They're more powerful than the old ones. So there's a lot of information there. So he's done his homework. I have not done any homework on this. So I say the symbols, you can use them in whatever way, as long as you don't mix them together. Anything else, Ibrahim's done wonderful work on it. And so I'd go with that as just a safety factor.
Thank you.
Well, if no one says anything, I have to say thank you, Jerry and Mary, and of course, always booking these phenomenal events, and Judy for facilitating seamlessly with Jennifer. It was just extraordinary for a first run, extraordinary. And I've been on many first runs since COVID. So I have to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And the content was just, I mean, Jerry, you have, and you know, I've been in years in your group every month. And so where this has come to is, I mean, I don't even know how to put words to it. So I just want to say thank you. And of course, Joe, for cooperating and working with you. And it's life-changing. It is just truly life-changing. So thank you. And I can't wait till the next iteration. And do we get the slides?
Thank you, Jessica.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's been an amazing past 6 months learning about all this stuff, because I didn't have any of this. Therefore, I think a lot has to do with synchronicity of Bob Whitehouse coming, and then synchronicity of my seeing that, or maybe being instructed to see that, the information that's there. And the other side is looking at all this stuff that's going on, and they're instructing accordingly. So how much is mine, how much is theirs, who knows? But I'm getting, I've lived a life of synchronicity, and this is, I think, just a part of that life.
Well, thank you. And it was a heartfelt, warm, beautiful experience with everybody on the phone and being able to see your faces tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jen. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Judy. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Incredible call. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bob.
Beautiful call. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, guys. And we'll do this. We'll do another talk next month. And if you have people that you'd like to see present with us and for us, let us know, and we'll keep going. So have a good night. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Stay well.
Stay well.
Thanks.